All right. Awesome. You can take the screen back.
Yep. So one of the stocks that sticks out, it's trading in the pre-market hours pretty actively here. GME down 19%, 16.6 million shares trading just in the pre-market alone. And the stock has been already pretty volatile in the news couple days in a row. So let's just take a look at that trading activity from a couple different perspectives. And just to even get a sense of where the options are trading, we're going to look at the stock trading in GME and maybe the options as well. But I'm going to come up here to our options volume report. And just to show you guys where GME's standing is as far as the most active options. Okay, and this report here shows a list of stocks that trade options, and it is sorted by the highest dollar traded notional in the option contracts. So NVIDIA, you can see, traded $2 billion worth of options yesterday. Those are dollar value. We could switch it over here if we wanted to see just volume by contracts. Well, let's keep it by dollar value for now. And just scrolling down, I see GME already is in the top 10 over here. Right? I don't know exactly how much, but it's in the top 10. And yesterday, if we just go from left to right, we have the number of trades, dollar value of the contracts. We see we could compare yesterday's dollar value versus average daily, and yesterday was 10 times its average daily volume. So a lot of trading going on here in the options and in the stock as well. And we could look at it separately. We could look at what happened in the options, and we could look at what happened trading in the stock. So let's go to, I'm going to just go to the GME. And one thing we could do is look at yesterday's trading activity. Let's start out with the stock first and see if we could get insights what's been going on. So I'm going to go here to GME. And I'm going to hit on this price action analysis. This is today's activity here. This so far, this is trading a pre-market. We haven't opened yet, so this is so far trading activity in pre-market. We'll take a look at that. But I'm going to go first and just take a look at the VWAP during regular trading hours for yesterday to get a sense of how this traded. And keep in mind, we're still in pre-market, so we only have yesterday's data to look at for regular trading hours. And one thing we could look at over here, and we have summary stats here, and then we have this minute-to-minute VWAP table. So you have this more granular view of the trading activity and what transpired. And up here, we have a summary stat of large volume bursts. Okay. Large volume bursts are an unusual amount of trading volume in a particular minute for that time of day. And we track what happened during that minute on the volume burst. What was the volume? Was it traded on an uptick, which would be a buy burst, on a downtick, a sell burst? What was the average price? And over here, so we see there's 6 sell bursts yesterday, 0 buy bursts. Total dollar value of the sell burst was $140 million worth of stock for an average VWAP price of $29.88. And the average impact on these sell bursts was down 52 cents. So that's showing us the liquidity, how much, the impact when these sell bursts came in on the stock price. So obviously there are no buys, only sells. We could take a look at, if I open this, it shows us the timestamps. And this is the breakdown at between 11 o'clock and 11:47. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, and then one at the end of the day. And this is the breakdown, $26 million, $25 million worth. If you click on it, right here, it goes to the 11 o'clock. And we could see here, $26.5 million worth of stock traded. That's a sell. That's 4.4 times its typical volume for this time of day. And we see that if we compare it to the previous minute, it was down 55 cents. So that's why we tag this in our system as a sell burst. Right? You need sellers to move down the prices. The buyers can't move them down themselves. And to move up the prices, you need buyers because the sellers can't move them down themselves. So this is what it looked like yesterday. If we compare it to the average daily, what we see is that on average, we usually see bigger bursts, right? We see 18 on the sell side, 30 on the buy side. These are the average notionals on a day: 185 million, 262 million. So this is not a big amount relative to the average daily. The only thing that's noticeable is that there are no buys yesterday that we detected on the entire day. Only some sell bursts. And one thing that's noticeable is that the impact on the stock yesterday seemed to be greater than its average, right? So yesterday on average, we see the stock got hit 52 cents versus average of, around 20 cents. So a little bit less liquid, basically, for the sellers, and not as many sell bursts. And another thing that could be contributing, one thing we should keep in mind, is that in GME, I believe at this point it's a hard to borrow stock, very difficult to short. So in those cases, it is more likely that the sell bursts are coming from a liquidation of long stock than it is from short stock, because it's very difficult to find and borrow stock to short. Okay, and that could also be contributing to less sell bursts. So when we look at it, we have to consider if it's a hard to borrow stock and very difficult to borrow, or short squeeze, that will impact the ability to sell short, and those sell bursts might be more weighted towards the liquidation of stock than actual selling short. But nothing, so that's just from yesterday's activity. Let's take a look at today's pre-market. And one thing also, as a reference point, what we see is that all those sales, so on average, we see the VWAP price is $29.88. We don't have it compared to the buy, but we do compare it to the closing price of $27.67, meaning that all those, the sales on average are in the money, we could say, right? That it sold on average, but the price was still weaker. It came down. It wasn't like, it sold, they got cleaned up, and the price increased. Seems like it sold, but the market continued to weaken after that. And we don't see any even counter buy bursts there. So that's just one observation we can make from the stock. Another thing we can do just quickly is if we went to these volume statistics, we do have a breakdown how it traded. And if we just go to here, let's just go to the bigger one, 1114. Here's a sell burst. We could see that the breakdown of it on that minute, 1114, 33% of it were intermarket sweeps. Only 3% was a big block trade, and 46% of it was in dark pool. Okay, so here's the breakdown. And here it's a little bit fairly distributed. Nothing sticks out greatly, but when we're looking at it, we want to see if the liquidity that they need to the one side that's trying to either get in or get out, are they getting access to more liquidity in the lit exchange or the dark pools? Because those are two different venues we have to keep an eye out for. Because if there's no liquidity in the dark pools, if you can't get those executions, you're forced to go to the lit exchanges, where once you start hitting those prices or taking them out, you're going to move the markets. The lit exchanges are always going to be the last resort, because once you start taking that liquidity, if you're hitting the bids, that means that the bids are going to be starting to drop. If you're taking out the offers are going to start lifting, and you're going to start moving the markets. So in this one, nothing sticks out greatly. It looks maybe that just maybe the intermarket sweeps sticks out a little bit, but nothing there on that front. Just to speed it up, let's take a look at the fades. There's another one. There were no price fades yesterday to talk about, so I'm going to skip that. If there were, I'd go to it, but let's take a look at the history of the opening process. So with GME or any stock, what we have is we have different sessions. We have pre-market trading that starts at 4 a.m. We're going to take a look at that, going up to 9:30 regular trading hours. But before we hit the regular trading hours, we have this single price auction where we call it the opening auction, opening price. And what that is the specialist on the listing exchange receives orders, marketable limit orders to get executed on the opening of regular trading hours. So these would be orders that are not trying to get executed in pre-market, or they're not allowed to be executed in the pre-market. They're not eligible. So what they will do is accumulate on the order book, and then the specialist will take the buyers and the sellers and match it up where he could get the most filled of buyers and sellers. And if we see a surge, right, if we see a surge at the open more than typical, so here's we could see here typical, but then we see this surge these last 1, 2, 3 kind of 4 days. And when that's happening, we want to pay attention. Well, why is that happening? Is sometimes there's just news and people just start entering in their orders because they're reading the pre-market. Sometimes you might have somebody who needs to cover, right? If you have a short and overnight you lose your locate, remember when you're short stock, you need to borrow from somebody. And and if you borrow it, you sell it. But if that person no longer has that stock to lend you, maybe he sold it or whatever it is, you have to give it back. So if you lose your locate, your broker says you got to cover, well, that order is coming in the morning, to cover at the market. So that's a possibility that there's a big surge at the open. But there's, there's a big buyer or seller at the open on something. So it's something to keep an eye out, which is unusual. And here we could just see, kind of started here, May 13th. And what do we look for is potentially, how did it open? And did this, if it opened up or down, what did the stock do the rest of the day? So if it opened at a price and it drifted higher to the close, well, that's a sign of strength, right? Because the buyers at the open are in the money sellers. They got a worse fill than if they ended up at the end of the day, and vice versa. So on May 13th, we opened at 26.60, closed at 30.45. You can see that opening 631,000. So on that day, that would have been, I would say, just from this perspective, right, without looking at other ones, that shows a sign of strength and a sign that wherever it opened, the rest of the day, the trading activity was able to push the price higher from that opening. Here, May 14th, opened at 63.56 on even more 1.2 million shares, but closed 48.75. Well, looks pretty weak, right? That all those buyers who were on the buy side, got a much higher fill price than where the stock closed at. Meaning, anybody who bought there and didn't sell are sitting on big losses, and the market couldn't hold that price. That level could not be held. It went much further. Next day, not as a strong, volume at the open, but still more than usual, and kind of the same thing. The opening price was slightly higher than the closing price, and so forth. So a lot of activity right here at the open. Let's take a look at our pre-market today. So this is the pre-market for today. So far, what we see, this is our table, okay, just for pre-market activity. We have summary stats here for the volume bursts. So far, we've seen 3 large volume bursts on the buy side for 49.5 million shares, average price 23.13. This is the price impact on average 71 cents. And we had 12 volume bursts on the sell side, 75.7 million shares. $75.7 million worth of shares, notional dollars worth, for an average price of 23.56. And the average impact is down 57 cents. So we could see here that those numbers are still higher than usual, with a bigger imbalance here on the sell side so far, in the pre-market trading. These are the timestamps here. Okay. And if we wanted to, we could go back and start taking a look closer. 7/18 was the first one. So you could see here, this is the first volume burst we got. There was 59% of it were intermarket sweeps. And on average, that first price was VWAP price $26.63. And you could see that the price impact, $1 down, $1.57. Okay. So you could see a bunch of them right here in the morning. Sell, sell, sell. Let's just take a look at the buys. Now, another thing, let me show you guys. So you notice there's nothing in the dark pool yet trading. And if we come here, So you could see here that the dark pools look like they opened up around 8 a.m. Before that, we didn't tag anything in the dark pools. So around 8 a.m., that's when the dark pool liquidity came in. So it looks like everything before 8 a.m., dark pool liquidity was not available yet. So all of these had to go access the liquidity on the lit exchanges. So keep an eye out what happens after 8 a.m. Things could change because now you got this new liquidity that's being turned on.
AD?
Yeah.
Rob says this tool is amazing in that it shows exactly how news on earnings and projected profits play in the market trades. He's asking, is there a way on MC to correlate the news release with the time of the market move? That's the question he's typed in. If it's any different, Rob, let me know.
Yeah. No, yeah, thank you for the question. So on the so we're still working on the pre-market. This will look more like the trading hours VWAP. But over here, one of the things that we do tag is events that are happening that could be causing bursts. And here we see the events and trade burst alerts. So if there was like, here's an FOMC member, he was speaking at 350, but we don't see any type of, bursts around that. Here we saw a sell burst, but we also were able to detect that there was a big S&P 500 program burst for a basket of stocks. So 28 stocks in the S&P 500 simultaneously, we saw a buy burst in that minute. That doesn't look like it would be correlated because that was on the buy side. Here we're on the sell side in GME. So I don't think that played anything into it, but we just kind of tag it there just to keep an eye out. If you open this only at 350, see this little plus sign? That means something else happened at 354 on that minute. So if you click on it and it happened to be this one that we detected, which was a buy versus S&P 500. But other than that, here we could look at all the events. So as far as the events that we got, we had 4 economic indicators, which were like FOMC meeting, nothing on the company events during the day, like that they were scheduled to release. There are, bursts in the S&P 500 over here. There's market-wide bursts. So like here's on the sell side. I'll show you how that looks. So 122, which is over here, there is a market-wide sell burst, which means that we saw sell bursts happening in S&P 500, in the NASDAQ, in the Russell 2000. A big program burst on the sell side, happened at 122. And it doesn't look like that GME is reacting at all to that. So GME was mostly trading on its firm specific, company specific news or whatever people are concentrating on. It's mostly whatever is happening specifically within GME.
I think they pre-announced earnings this morning.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like anything that that was related to like a market event that we were tagging or some kind of event. Like we could look at, when we look at like for example, economic events, there's 4 of them. Here's one at 10 a.m. Federal Reserve, Michael Barr speaks, nothing. 10:30, natural gas inventory plus FOMC speaker, but we don't see anything around here. 12 FOMC, so you see nothing going on as related to that. We're up over 9:30. Well, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, sorry about that, D. I should have let you know. You were on a roll. Good stuff. Great information to D today. Thanks for the question, Rob. Everyone have a great weekend and a great trading day today. Thanks, D.
Yep. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe. Have a great trading day. Hope to see you guys Monday.
Thanks, D.